Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Sodajerker on Songwriting. I'm Brian O'Connor, accompanied as ever by my co-host Simon Barber, and we hope you're all keeping safe and well. Joining us for episode 190 is a legendary American singer and songwriter, not to mention philanthropist and sometime actor, who's best known as the founder and frontman of one of the most successful, beloved and enduring rock bands on the planet.
Not only is he responsible for more fist-pumping rock anthems than you can shake a stick at, he's also a Grammy winner and member of both the Songwriters and Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. His band has sold over 130 million albums worldwide, also notching up 7 number 1 singles and innumerable top 10 hits. We are beyond giddy to welcome the one and only Jon Bon Jovi to the show.
In October 2020, Bon Jovi released their 15th studio album, entitled aptly enough 2020. It was originally due in May, but was pushed back due to the pandemic, and instead of sitting on his hands, Jon used the postponement to continue work on the album, writing new songs for it in order to address the current social and political situation in the US. What a thrill it is to have Jon on the pod, Si.
I know, we've said it many times before, but it never gets any less exciting to speak to these people who we grew up listening to on the radio and watching on MTV as teenagers.
Yeah. Actually, my first memory of Bon Jovi is hearing my big sister playing them on our cassette player in our shared bedroom when I was about 7 or 8, I think. She was 9 years older than me and still is, and very much into her rock and heavy metal at the time. I seem to remember we also had the New Jersey video collection on VHS.
Wow, the best format for it.
Best format, full stop.
Our guest was born in Perth Amboy, New Jersey in 1962, the son of 2 former Marines, and raised in Sayreville. He first picked up the guitar at 13 and, inspired by the thriving Jersey Shore scene, later played the local clubs in a series of bands such as Rays, Atlantic City Expressway and Jon Bon Jovi and the Wild Ones. Jon began writing his own songs around the age of 18 and by the turn of the 80s had formed The Rest, with which he opened for New Jersey luminaries like Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. He also worked as a gopher at his cousin Tony Bon Jovi's studio, the legendary Power Station in Manhattan.
In 1983, a local radio station, WAPP, included his song Runaway on a compilation album of local talent which garnered nationwide airplay. On the back of the buzz the song generated, Jon wasted no time in assembling Bon Jovi, recruiting David Bryan on keys, Tico Torres on drums and Alec John Such on bass, with lead guitarist Richie Sambora joining soon after. The band signed to Mercury in 1983, releasing their eponymous debut album the following year.
The first couple of records did okay, but it was with their third long player, 1986's Slippery When Wet, that Bon Jovi went positively stratospheric. Aided by writing contributions from new collaborator and future Sodajerker guest Desmond Child, the record spent 8 weeks at the top of the Billboard charts and yielded the indelible singles Living on a Prayer, You Give Love a Bad Name and Wanted Dead or Alive.
1988's New Jersey consolidated that success, topping the charts around the world and spawning 5 hit singles including Bad Medicine and Lay Your Hands on Me. Jon released his first solo album, Blaze of Glory, in 1990, before reuniting with his bandmates for 1992's Keep the Faith. Alec John Such left in 94 to be replaced by studio bassist Hugh McDonald.
The band's other studio albums to date include These Days, the Grammy-nominated Crush, the Nashville-influenced Lost Highway, What About Now, their last album with Richie Sambora, who left in 2014, and 2016's This House Is Not For Sale, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard chart. In 2009, Jon was inducted, along with Richie Sambora, into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, while Bon Jovi were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018.
Our guest has also done a fair bit of acting in his time, appearing in movies like Moonlight and Valentino, Pay It Forward, The Leading Man and U571, as well as TV shows such as Sex and the City, 30 Rock, The West Wing and Ally McBeal.
In 2006, our guest founded the Jon Bon Jovi Soul Foundation, a non-profit organisation focused on issues of hunger and homelessness in the US. You can find out more about its work at jbjsf.org.
More recently, with his wife Dorothea, he's established several Soul Kitchen restaurants in New Jersey with the purpose of providing meals for in-need patrons on a pay-what-you-can basis. More info about that at jbjsoulkitchen.org. It's safe to say this man is what we Brits would describe as a good egg.
He's good people, all right. To hear songs from 2020 and selections from the whole Bon Jovi discography, check out our playlist for this episode. We'll link to it from Jon's page at sodajerker.com/podcast. Find him online at bonjovi.com, facebook.com/JonBonJovi, and at Jon Bon Jovi on Twitter and Instagram.
We can be found at sodajerker.com, facebook.com/sodajerker, and at sodajerker on Twitter and Instagram. If you're a newcomer to the show, we hope you'll stick around and check out our extensive back catalogue of songwriter interviews, and don't forget to follow, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to contribute towards the running costs of this independent, ad-free show, give whatever you can spare at sodajerky.com/donate.
Before we continue, many thanks to Susanna for her help setting up the interview.
Now, without further ado, please enjoy our chat with the one and only Jon Bon Jovi.
We've really been enjoying 2020 of late.
Thank you.
I mean, for us, it very clearly captures where you're currently at as a songwriter. Obviously, the Bon Jovi kind of blueprint of the strong tunes and the choruses is there, but it's lyrically, it's super honest and direct, isn't it? And it's really kind of vivid chronicle of a crazy time in history.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. With this record, I found it interesting to write about topics in the world in which we were living, instead of just writing a rock song or a boy-girl song. And that didn't really have any appeal to me this time.
We've spoken to a number of artists who had albums postponed due to the pandemic, but you're probably the first person we've come across who actually wrote new songs towards their record in that period.
So I could take you back a little bit. In March of 19, which is coming up on 2 years now, we went into the studio in Nashville to record what I thought was the album, but in retrospect was really just the first batch of songs. And I had the title 2020. One, because it also, is about clear vision. And I thought to myself, the insider will know that what I was thinking with this album title was I have clear vision of the future. And of course, there was the election year that was pending. And jokingly, I'd realized, it would be a great campaign poster, therefore could sell a lot of t-shirts. So, but when I told the band the title and we were recording the songs and it was coming together and then ultimately even finished, I kept writing because of the pandemic. And then the record really started to take a different shape. Now it had a much deeper meaning. And because it was topical, and I didn't want to take sides, which could be very scary. If you sit here and go, bad Trump, bad Trump, bad Trump, you're going to alienate half of the audience. And it's a terrible assumption to think that because I have the microphone, I'm right. The conclusion I came to is that I would bear witness to history and not take sides, but just be the narrator. And that's when the whole thing took focus to me. And that's when I got really excited about the title and the album cover and even the sequencing, everything about it.
And I think with American Reckoning, you were particularly rigorous about that one, weren't you? I think you even sort of went to the extreme of playing it to family and friends and even fellow songwriters to see what they thought of it.
Yeah. Even more than Do What You Can, which was, okay, we're all in this pandemic together. When you're taking on the topic of Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd, and in a world where the confusion with the statement and how people would defend their position by saying, but all lives matter. Well, the truth is all lives can't matter unless Black lives matter. And then, they became this whole heated debate and blue lives matter. That's not the point. Can we agree that Black lives matter is the point? And so I knew that I was going to go down a road that was going to be difficult at best. And yet I couldn't help but write the song. And there were several iterations during the course of the couple of weeks because, you write it stream of consciousness. And I played it for my wife, who's an honest and harsh critic. And she said, the verse is fantastic, but the chorus is lacking. I kept woodshedding the chorus. Got it to a place where I really thought it was right. And then played it for African-American members of the record company to, like I said, esteemed songwriters or politicians or the band. And I really wanted to make sure I got it right because it was a daunting task. And ultimately, I think I did get it right.
I think Paul McCartney was one of the people you played that to, wasn't it? Or Beatle Paul, I should say.
Beatle Paul. Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were a couple of the people. Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to know both of them. And, that kind of fan in me had to be put aside just as another songwriter and say, I want your opinions, be brutally honest. And so they were two of the people I played it for. But more than them as songwriters, think about the African-American member of the record company who is, can I tell him the truth? Or the minister from down the street who was like, is he going to be mad at me if I tell him the truth? And it's the last thing I'm going to do is be mad if I am told the truth. I'd be mad at you if you didn't tell me the truth. So, with that song, this wasn't like, oh, here's You Give Love a Bad Name. Do you like it or not? This was a real daunting task. And it was something that I wanted to get right.
Yeah. And is it a typical part of your writing process to play a kind of song in process to other people to get the feedback?
Not necessarily, no. Because at the end of the day, a record has to move you as an artist. If you're truly going to get to the place where you're at, nearly 40 years down the road, when you're not trying to appease the market or the record company or whatever, the audience that you figured needs an up-tempo song, then you really sit down and you create a record for yourself. And I'm at that point in my career where that's all that matters. And so I can't play the radio game anymore. I'm too old, or you've got your opinions of me, or I have no interest in writing that. So all I can do is create the record that I want to create, which is an interesting part of the dynamic, as you guys can relate as songwriters. You do get to a place when you're a writer and an artist that you can't do something that doesn't ring true. Because the worst thing that could happen is it's a major hit and you got to sing it for the rest of your life. But, in the big picture, to do something that would be compromising would just, at this point in my career, wouldn't make any sense.